What's up, guys? Fantasy Football Anonymous here to talk about our favorite Week 14 fantasy plays, some players that we're cooling on, and some sneaky plays that you might be able to throw out there to give you a little bit of an unexpected edge in the fantasy playoffs. I'm Joe Osno here with Rob Shaw, Matthew Schroeder, and I'm on a pretty epically bad run of giving horrible advice to people. I have good reasons to throw these players' names out, and they have just been complete duds. So we'll save my horrible picks for last.
Basically, if you have Joe's guys that he loves, bench him. If he hates them, play him. That's the strategy.
I was last week on our other show. I was calling for the Bengals to win against the Steelers, and I felt so good for three quarters, and then I just had to hang my head because by the start of the fourth quarter, I could tell that Pittsburgh was going to come back and win that game, and I think in my heart of hearts, I just didn't want Baltimore to take that last playoff spot. It's sad to think of them in the playoffs.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, well, Schroeder, who do you love this week?
All right, guys. My first love, quarterback. I'm going to pick Alex Smith. It's a weird choice. He actually had a great game last week. He had a 70-yard run. You don't see that very often from Alex Smith, but he does take off. It's usually the 15-yard variety, not the 70-yard variety. But he was finding early, Travis Kelce early. He also found Tyreek Hill for two pretty long touchdowns. So he went crazy. One of his best games came against Oakland earlier this year. They're at home. This is a must-win game for Kansas City. They're 6-6. They have been losing a lot recently. They have not looked good. They just lost to the Jets. Now they're at Oakland, a division rival who's also 6-6 and is threatening to take the division. Alex Smith has to have a good game for them to win. I really like him against Oakland's porous defense. At running back, I'm picking the one, the only, the Drake. Kenyon Drake versus New England. Ever since Damian Williams has gotten injured, Kenyon Drake has stepped up and been the workhorse back. And this guy's a playmaker. He has a lot of long runs. He's kind of like an Alvin Kamara, not as good. A mini, not as good Alvin Kamara. But he has been lightning in a bottle for Miami. Had a very good game last week. Had over 140 yards receiving and rushing and a touchdown. So this is a guy who I feel like unless you have absolutely better options, you have to play until further notice, or at least until Damian Williams comes back. At wide receiver, I'm going to go ahead and pick Marvin Jones Jr. at Tampa Bay. Marvin Jones Jr. Lately has been pretty good, been catching a lot of touchdowns. Really, it's pretty simple here. He's facing Tampa Bay. Matthew Stafford should be playing this week. He's kind of one of those Iron Men that plays every week, no matter how many injuries he gets. So at Tampa Bay with Matthew Stafford in, I like Marvin Jones to have a good game. And last but not least, guys, I would also be remiss if I did not mention my tight end. Guess who it is? And no, it's not Jared Cook. We all messed up on that one last week, guys. This one is the one playing Denver. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, come on down. How do you beat Denver? You throw to the tight end. That's all you need to know. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is going to have a good game.
Oh, how we've missed that take. Good to have it back.
You know, Schroeder, it might take me too long to go through all the videos. I should do a collage of every time you said that this season. That would be pretty good. Okay, so guys, I'm kind of with Joe. I don't know if right now, just whatever I say, it'll be so logical and smart. I can get to the fantasy playoffs. I can get you there. Trust me, audience, I can get you there. But once I get there, it's like I'm the Peyton Manning of fantasy football. I just can't win a Super Bowl, you know. I think a lot of that has just been some bad luck. I usually have good luck along the way and, you know, some bad luck. But so take my advice, you know, as a grain of salt from here on to the end. That being said, I'm going to give you some logical advice here. So for my good this week, I talked about him earlier, Carson Wentz. I think this game is going to be a huge shootout. Had a down game, he still put up 17 points last week in what was a lesser performance. I think he's safe to start every week. Not a bad matchup. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. Wentz is good to go. I got Shady McCoy, one of my Bills, going with one of him. Oddly enough, he's a top 10 back. I actually was kind of surprised, as much as the Bills have struggled this year. But the Colts, their defense is really bad. And so they have Nathan Peterman coming in, who threw 5 interceptions his first game. And I just don't see them really wanting to put him back in the pocket that many times. So I think McCoy's going to have a big opportunity to get a lot of carries, plus 20 at least, and have a nice game. I like Brandon Cooks. He's been pretty quiet. Had a quiet game against Buffalo last week. But going up against Miami, if you look a few weeks ago, with the matchup against Miami, he performed very well. This is a Miami defense, pass defense, that has not been very good this season. I looked for him to get back. My other reason is it's the Burkheads. It's all these guys you're not expecting to score. Just as you're going to put stock in Burkhead, they're going to throw the ball to Cooks. That's just my theory on the Patriots. They try to piss us off. So trying to get ahead of Bill Belichick here. Brandon Cooks has a good matchup this week. Go with him. And he's back. Evan Ingram is back. But wait, Eli Manning's back. I don't care who's playing quarterback. I like Evan Ingram as a tight end. He's far exceeded my initial expectations. Finally had a return to, had a great game last week. Even with the quarterback switch going up against Dallas. Division game, usually a big game. They play very hard. I think he's going to be the key to them competing in this game, and I think he's going to get his targets, and I think he's going to have another good week. So, Joe, who you got?
As much as Schroeder loves Alex Smith this week, I like the guy on the other side of the ball. It is Derek Carr. We saw Josh McCown have a field day with that Kansas City defense, those non-Marcus Peters corners, just complete incompetence from them. And Carr definitely had his best game of the season, I believe, against these Kansas City Chiefs at Oakland earlier in the year. And I think it's a great opportunity for him to get back on track, even if we don't think much of the Oakland Raiders as a complete team. I like Marshawn Lynch this week as well. He's been rambling a little bit, reminiscent of the old beast mode. Kansas City's run defense is just as porous as their pass defense, so it's a really leaky defensive unit. And I think both offenses have a chance to have huge days, Lynch included. I think there's at least one short touchdown going to be up for grabs for him in this game. Sticking with the theme of the old guys here, I love Larry Fitzgerald this week. He's continued to produce as a wide receiver one. He's the ultimate Iron Man. Just keeps on going, and he's played much better at home this year than on the road, and he has a very exploitable matchup this week at home. I think he's a very good play, and I love my boy Hunter Henry this week. No team has allowed more receiving yards to the tight end position than the Washington Redskins, and his quarterback's just clicking right now. And as much as Keenan Allen's been on fire recently, Hunter Henry's has emerged as the clear number 2 target there for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Good job.
Not the San Diego Chargers, but the Los Angeles Chargers. And I think he's really set up for a good spot here. Players I'm a little bit cool on. Jared Goff this week. While I do believe in the shootout potential for this game, I think it's also a spot where if Philly definitely has a shot for their defense to impose their will and for their pass rush to get home against a guy like Goff. I think this could be much more of a Todd Gurley game. Down on Leonard Fournette this week. It's I think I actually put him there by accident, but I'll make a case for it. It's a Seattle run defense that really stepped up a week ago.
That was good. That was good.
I remember why I put him there now. I did actually go with him as my pick this week.
I agree. So
well, whatever I say, it's wrong anyway. So who cares? But yeah, I think this it's just a tough matchup for him, and he's really been struggling lately to get things going on the ground, despite favorable matchups. He's really only had one good game in the past month, and I think until they get some things worked out with that offensive line, he's going to continue to have a tough time of it. Though he's been able to make up for a little bit in the passing game. Sticking with that game, I'm a little bit down on Doug Baldwin this week as the number one receiver facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just a tough spot for him. We saw last week Russell Wilson spread the ball out a little bit more, and obviously when they get close to the goal line now, he's pretty much locked on to Jimmy Graham, and that's all he's done recently. So that definitely hurts Baldwin's chances at scoring here. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are becoming the Denver Broncos. The way you attack them in the passing game is by using your tight end. I'm down a little bit on Delanie Walker this week. While Arizona has allowed some passing touchdowns to the tight end position, they don't really allow a ton of yards. And for the most part, their coverage there has been pretty sound throughout the season. He's a little bit banged up. I just don't think this is a smash spot for him.
Funny you say that, Joe. Delanie Walker, I wanted to mention this. I was down on him this year, and he's still having a pretty solid season. I was surprised. But yeah, it could be a tough matchup for him. I'm down on Phillip Rivers this week. Pretty bold. He's having a hot streak right now. Right now, I just feel like with the way Washington, with their corners right now, I just see this as could be a bad matchup. And also looking at who Rivers has played the last couple weeks, he's put up a lot of points, but I feel like the competition, Dallas, their pass defense is just terrible. I mean, Buffalo, not really much there. Washington, they've struggled defensively this year, but they've also had their moments. They've been good against receivers. Joe, like you said, Hunter Henry could be a good play. I kind of like him this week. But I feel like he's not one of the top guys this week. He's a top 5 guy in most daily fantasy and a lot of rankings. And I just don't see it this week. I think it's going to be a tougher matchup for him. They might lean on the run a little more this week. And speaking of the run, I'm just contradicting myself. I don't like Melvin Gordon this week either. I don't love Melvin Gordon this week. I have him going in the playoffs, and frankly, and it's a PPR, I have to start him. I mean, he's too talented. There's too much opportunity. Schroeder's smiling because it's against him. He's like, come on, take him out. But they've been, splitting the carries a lot more to Eckler, and that's how you say his name, right?
Austin Eckler.
Yeah, Eckler, yeah.
Eckler. Yeah, like these new guys, I said Maryland Mack one time, and like I was, I'm not the greatest.
Kareem Kant.
Yeah. I'm not the greatest with my language sometimes, so bear with me, crowd. But yeah, he's been giving a little more work to him, and his production just hasn't been there. He does not have a high yards per carry as of late. That might change a little bit, but I'm definitely not very confident in him this week, really going forward, until I see some life out of him. And another bold, I'm not high on this guy. Tyreek Hill. Yes, the guy who just had, a 2-touchdown game and is going up against the Oakland Raiders. Hear me out. Hear me out on this. I'm a big believer in I look at the fantasy sheets, I look at the scores, I look at the patterns. Tyreek Hill has been an on and off guy, much like Julio Jones having the big games the next week. I don't know if the defense is showing him a little more attention, what the deal is, why, but that had Xavier Rhodes on Julio Jones, he doesn't have as good of a game. Oakland doesn't have Xavier Rhodes, but I see them going to Travis Kelce a little more this game. I see them hitting up some of the other guys this game a little more. We're going to see some Kareem Hunt. I almost said what you said, Joe, at the beginning of the season. And I'm just cooling on him. I think this is going to be a more pedestrian game. He'll get a lot of catches, but maybe that big play, they'll be guarding that a little more. And I had Jared Cook. I don't really have to say anything else. That was
he sucks.
You guys already covered it.
He's going to go off this week now that you've said it.
Yeah, probably.
And the bad matchup with his receivers coming back, that's when he goes up, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
He did smash against Kansas City earlier in the year.
He did well.
Yep.
All right. So at quarterback, the person who I hate this week, sorry, Russell, you've been so good this year, but Jacksonville is death on quarterbacks. The only redemption value that you can hope to get is he runs for he's going to be running for his life all day, which he will be, and that he runs for a lot of yards and can pick up, because he's not going to be getting a lot of passing yards against this very good Jacksonville defense. So if you have better options, I would definitely sit him. It's just not a good matchup. At running back, I'm going to double down here. DeMarco Murray again.
Mm-hmm.
He's facing Arizona. Arizona's rush defense actually hasn't been bad, especially when they're playing at Arizona. Again, he's splitting carries, and so between that, I just don't like his potential to have a big game here. He's probably around 18 to 20 in my rankings. At wide receiver, I'm going to pick a guy that I don't know why he's struggling, and I don't understand why he's been such a bust this year. But I'm going to jump on the train of him sucking until he shows me he's not going to suck anymore, and that's Mike Evans. For the love of God, Mike Evans, you have tons of talent. Get with it. But he has just not been good. He has not caught a touchdown the past 6 or 7 games. He's put up 90 yards, was his best one in the past 7 games. He just has not been the guy you drafted him to be. He's a guy that everyone is kind of just sets and forgets. But I'm telling you right now, I'd probably rather play Robbie Anderson than Mike Evans right now, just because Mike Evans doesn't seem to have chemistry with anyone, and I'm not sure if he's given up on the season or what's going on with him, but he has not looked good. And lastly, at tight end, I'm going to go ahead and go with Charles Clay. Charles Clay's coming back with injury. He does have a good matchup against Indianapolis, but with Nathan Peterman probably being the quarterback, it's just not someone who you want to throw out there, regardless of the circumstances. Now on to my sneaky plays of the week. Guys, I'm going bottom of the barrel for my quarterback, Brett Hundley at quarterback. He's facing Cleveland. This is the week where you can actually fire him up and hope he does something. Phillip Rivers didn't do that great against Cleveland. And I'm saying Cleveland can't defend a quarterback well twice. So Brett Hundley is going to have a big game. You heard it here first. I'm also going to be picking Tevin Coleman as my running back against New Orleans. Coleman he's a number 12 running back in fantasy this year. A lot of those points came whenever Devontae Freeman was out. But I'm playing Devontae Freeman in the playoffs, and Tevin Coleman is playing on Thursday night. So combine those two things, that means I'm going to get screwed. And so I love Coleman this week since I'm not playing him in the playoffs. Look for him to take a lot of work and somehow get into the end zone 3 or 4 times while Freeman does not get in at all. My sneaky play of the week at wide receiver is the one, the only Flash Gordon. He's back, guys. He's back. He had a ton of targets last game. He was actually put up the most yards by any wide receiver besides Odell Beckham against Casey Verrett this year, or even I think last year as well. So this guy has the talent. He's finally sober. I could see him actually being a pretty big fantasy difference maker in the playoffs. And lastly, a tight end who he has only Jameis Winston to thank that he's back is Cameron Brate. He was unplayable when Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback, but now that Jameis is back, he is locked on to Cameron Brate. Maybe that's part of Mike Evans sucking, is that they love Cameron Brate so much. But if you have him, he's easy a top 6 play for me this week. And before, Rob, I ask you who your sneaky picks are this week, I have to say, Ricky Seals-Jones beat O.J. Howard in they were just 2 dominating performances, 4 points to 1 point. Ricky Seals-Jones outscored him. So score that a point for Matt.
So Joe's the only undefeated one so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we'll have to make a bet before the end of the show.
Yeah, what a bad performance by both guys. That was pretty bad. But
that's part of the reason I didn't get in on that action. I thought both of the guys could be pretty bad, and one could win like 3-1 or 4-1.
Yeah, good call, Joe. Good call. So my sneaky, I'm really digging to the bottom of the barrel, Schroeder. I am going with the one, the only 2-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning this week. Yes, you heard it. He just grinned. All right, they're going up against Dallas, and you know how that is when they have these games. I feel like Dallas versus the Cowboys, Dallas versus the Giants, Cowboys versus Giants. It's always an interesting game. I feel like there might be some extra motivation here, and I still don't like Dallas's pass defense, even though they did play much better against Washington last week. I'm just not buying it from what I've seen all season. It's a sneaky play. It's definitely a daily fantasy kind of move. I wouldn't be getting cute and, benching one of your top guys with a bad match, or like Russell Wilson, go with Eli Manning. No, don't do that. But I do like him because he's going really cheap this week. Eli Manning. Kind of another dart throw. Marlon Mack. He's going up against Buffalo, a Bills team that has been the worst against the run these last 5 weeks. And Frank Gore's still the guy, but they're giving a lot of guys, Burkhead, even Charkand, or not Charkandra. I was thinking of different. That was a game from last year that's popping into my memory. Even the backup running backs are getting a lot of work against Buffalo. You saw that with Burkhead last week. And he could rip one off. This is a team that's given up a lot of big running plays. So I wouldn't be shocked. He's probably going at a minimum right now, and he could be a decent play. My tight end, I'm skipping receiver. My tight end, I'm going with Jason Witten on the other side of that game. The Giants, we like to pick on them a lot of times with how they defend the tight end. And Witten hasn't been spectacular by any means this season, but still a solid guy, somebody that, with Zeke gone, Dak, maybe looking for on those third downs. And, I think he could be some real good PPR value there. So receiver, it's funny, Schroeder, I was going to go with Josh Gordon, but he was actually ranked really high on ESPN's projections this week. So I kind of threw him into, I would have to say he was good, though I think he does qualify as a sneaky. But this is what I wrote down. Here's my sneaky play for this week. I don't have one. I literally sat on my computer looking at the screen, just wanting to pick one of these guys at the bottom of the list. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't make up my mind. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Screw these guys. I'm not picking any one of them. I'm not going to say a guy's going to have a good week if I don't actually believe it. So But in all seriousness, my advice to you this week, I really don't think there's a lot of good sneaky options at receiver. Go with the big name receivers this week. I think there's a lot of good matchups for some of these top guys. I think they're the safer plays. Schroeder, you mentioned Robbie Anderson. I like that play a lot. And don't do it this week. Go after some sleepy, sneaky running backs, quarterbacks, maybe like Hundley. You said I'd get your top receivers this week.
Rob, I thought you were about to say, don't start any receivers this week.
You might run into a little bit of difficulty winning if you do that. If it's golf league, lowest. But.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, guys. I kind of wish I'd taken Rob's option and not picked a sneaky wide receiver this week. But for my quarterback, Rob, you went with a two-time Super Bowl champion, as will I. Going with Jimmy Garoppolo this week. I think you can play him against a
You threw me off there. I wasn't thinking about that.
Against a leaky Texan secondary. I think he has a chance to create some big plays. He's such an improvement for the San Francisco offense, and he's probably the best streamer, I think, in a weak group of QB streamers this week. And so I like his top target. I like Marquise Goodwin. I think he has a chance to break off a long play against these Texans, who have given up a lot of long touchdowns to enemy wide receivers. I like Isaiah Crowell this week, Schroeder. You're one of your guys. We saw what Peyton Barber, the very talented Peyton Barber, was able to do to these Green Bay Packers last week. I think that Cleveland offensive line is finally starting to play a little bit better and open up some more room for Crowell. I actually like Cleveland to win this game. I think they come with another good effort. They can win without any consequences to their draft pick. That's my reasoning for it. And I think they want to win a game just for pride. And this is their best opportunity looking at their schedule. And I went with Schroeder, your love for this week, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I treated him as a sneaky play because he has not scored a touchdown in what seems like forever, except he has. It's just been overturned so many times.
About 5 or so.
They can't overturn all his touchdowns. So I think he's a very good play this week, especially with the corners probably making it tougher on those great Jets receivers.
But why do you like Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Joe?
Because the way you beat the Denver Broncos through the tight end.
Yes!
I like him.
Yes.
Joe, I got to say, Isaiah Crowell, starting him this week, you might be onto something. He's maybe headed in the right direction here. I'm willing to treat Isaiah Crowell as a ham and cheese sandwich from the gas station. So one fantasy step closer to fine cuisine.
You heard it here first. Rob saying Isaiah Crowell will be the number one running back this week. Well, guys, again, thanks for tuning in. For me, Rob, and Joe, please go ahead and subscribe to our page. And you subscribe below as well as like below. You can also reach us at ffanonymous3@gmail.com or tweet us at ffanonymous3. Again, thanks for listening. And remember, stay addicted.